Good evening and welcome to the Select Board meeting on October 25th, 2022. Let's start this evening by standing and facing the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I don't see public comment on there. I'll do that
We'll do it after the public
after
meeting.
the public meeting.
Right. So I'll take
Go ahead.
the first go.
Yes,
so the
thank
first
you.
agenda item is a public meeting is discussing laying out the streets for acceptance at the November town meeting. We have Farrington Avenue, Hemingway Place, Redwood Circle, and Warren Drive. This is part of the process in accepting these town roads as public ways. These roads are on the November special town meeting warrant article. In your packet, you have a letter from the town planner informing the planning board's decision to recommend these roads, a notice to the butters, a copy of the butters lists for the roads, and a copy of the certification that the board will sign after the board votes to act on this. And so this is just a step that the board needs to take to lay out the road for these particular private ways.
Awesome. So no public comment?
We did not have anyone
Cool.
notice.
Excellent. Do you have any questions?
None whatsoever.
Nor do I.
All right, so we have to do each one individually. I move that the board vote to lay out Farrington Avenue substantially in the location of the private way known as Farrington Avenue.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye. I move that the board vote to lay out Redwood Circle substantially in the location of the private way known as Redwood Circle.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye. I move that the board vote...
Sorry, I was slow. Go ahead.
I move that the board vote to lay out Hemingway Place substantially in the location of the private way known as Hemingway Place.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye. And I move that the board vote to lay out Warren Drive substantially in the location of the private way known as Warren Drive.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. And so now we open the microphone for anybody online or in person who has up to 3 minutes to talk about things that are pertinent to the town of Norfolk. Any takers? Anybody online? You can push the raise hand button or just call out. Nobody in person? All right, number 3, the warrant. Please review and execute the warrant for November 15th.
Okay, thank you. At the board's previous select board meeting, we had discussed the warrant article for this November special town meeting. The warrant hasn't changed. The board is going to be expected to execute the warrant for this special town meeting. Particularly, though, I do want to review the capital article, which I did not go over as we were not prepared, but we have a capital list. I do want to note for the board, just the 2 articles I was planning to go over were Article 2, Article 3, and Article 5. So let's go back to Article 2. So what typically the town has done previously, all budget transfers, we've had a special article for that. And this year, it's largely the same. The only difference is there's a new article, Article 3, which is the collective bargaining article. So there's about $70,000 to fund the clerical contract. So you don't see that on this list here because it's in Article 3. But for Article 2, we're moving about $420,000 in free cash. We're going to fund the stabilization fund at $150,000. The OPEB trust fund at $75,000, band payment for $120,442, and then a transfer of $75,000 for the facilities department to address some of the increased heating costs that weren't budgeted in the previous budget. So that's Article 2. That looks largely the same as what the town is used to. Article 5 is discussing our capital. As we had discussed in a previous meeting, the town had free cash certified at around about $2.9 million. We're going to use about $1.2 million for capital projects. The capital projects are the replacement of the town hall boiler. It's at $375,000. A furnace replacement for the DPW. That's $55,000. Fire department ventilation fans at $12,000. A large article that I want to talk to you about is the fire department engine 2 replacement rehab. We're appropriating $150,000 from capital, but this will probably be a multi-pronged approach. I expect that when we do an ARPA recommendation, that a portion of that will be covered under ARPA, as well as we've talked with Fire Chief Kenny and Todd and myself, and possibly using some of our ambulance receipts to help offset that cost as well. But we're looking at about $150,000 from free cash for in this capital article to assist with that. Whether it's buying a new one or refurbishing the existing, we're just trying to keep flexible and sort of allow us to do that. We'll utilize $16,000 for PPE replacement. This is something that long-term we might want to try and transition to the operating budget. This is more something that we want to move out of capital, but for now we need to fund it in capital. $40,000 for the automated CPR device. This $40,000 will be covered from ambulance receipts because it's directly for that. We'll have a $25,000 for a front-end loader engine repair. DPW's already had this engine loader out for repair at Deere, so this is just covering that expense. We'll appropriate $100,000 in addition to our Chapter 90 funds, which is about $400,000. So $100,000 for roadway or sidewalk improvements, as DPW and Blair figure out what is the priority there. We'll have $48,000 for a fuel island suppression system. There's a gas system at the DPW where all of our sort of fleet utilizes. It's in disrepair. We can't get the parts for that, so this was a priority for DPW and everyone there. $85,000 for a wood brush grinder. This is a nice capital expenditure because this will actually save about $20,000 in the operating budget. We pay about $20,000 annually to do some of this work outside contracting, so bringing this inside will help our operating budget as well. There will be about $35,000 for a DPW/recreation mower. About half of this expense is being covered by the Rec Commission. This is to help with the fields, bring efficiency there, hopefully allow for more mowing services at our fields. We will appropriate $40,000 for firewall, printers, and desktops. About $25,000 will be for firewall replacement. The rest will be to replace our peripherals. This is something that we're going to evaluate. We've been sort of doing an annual expenditure on this. We're going to really explore whether we should lease this and save some money. There's some different things that we can explore here. So this is a little bit lower than what has typically been, but it will allow us to replace all our firewall replacement needs and evaluate whether we need to lease peripherals. There will be $12,000 for a plotter for our planning department. $100,000 we appropriated for the technology replacement with the Norfolk schools. I spoke with Ingrid, and she was in support of that and appreciative of that allocation of funds. And then we will appropriate $139,000 for 2 marked police cruiser replacement vehicles. And that sort of coincides with the replacement strategy that was put in place last year and asked for. And so that's the proposed capital plan.
Excellent. The one thing I want to point out for our massive listening audience that I learned from conversations at the advisory was the fire department ventilation fans. If you're wondering why would we put ventilation fans in a fire department that we're replacing, these are ventilation fans that are portable that go to sites of homes that need that. So they're portable fans that are used on site for people. That was interesting for me to find out as well. So I'm just sharing that out with the world. Kevin, do you have any questions?
Just 2, and I'll keep them fairly high level because I know that there's experts that could probably speak more to the detail. But for roadways and sidewalk maintenance, you said an extra $100,000 is being thrown in on top of what we typically receive in Chapter 90 funding. Is there a specific thing that we needed to toss more money to this expense for, or was this just in general to be able to bolster the amount that we're putting forward on an annual basis?
So are you asking, do we have additional expenses and needs beyond the Chapter 90?
Correct.
Yes.
Well, I mean, we're always going to have in excess of Chapter 90, right? We're never going to get enough Chapter 90. But I'm asking specifically, is there something for $100,000 that we needed to address specifically or in general, just to give us $500,000 instead of $400,000?
Yeah. No, there's nothing specific. It's just largely that the town is like you mentioned, always going to have a need to have additional funding for roadway or sidewalk improvements. Blair didn't have anything specific. He just appreciated the opportunity to tackle projects as they appear with the additional funding.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The other one is for the school's technology replacement. Man, I feel like we see expense requests from the schools every year looking for a technology update or a technology replacement.
Right.
Is this the first time that we've actually been able to accommodate for that in a few years, or is this something that we are going to try to do in a more annual structure?
So this might be something that we look at a more annual structure. This is sort of a replacement cycle. Last year, the town funded about $125,000 for technology replacement. It hasn't been sort of scheduled,
Right.
but this is probably something that we're going to want to look at. I sort of mentioned as part of the IT vision. I think we're having a conversation with Ingrid in the schools and saying, hey, does it make sense maybe to lease some of these things? And the pros and cons of that is that if you lease, you might bring your costs down lower. However, you need to allocate that funding regularly versus owning that product. So if you don't have as much free cash and you can't allocate funds to that, you can maybe defer a year or two. But this will probably be something scheduled because when I was looking at the capital request with Todd, I saw out years to 2026 for
Gotcha.
technology requests.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And just because we do things in threes, the firewall expense, you had identified an update of equipment, I imagine hardware in some case or form, but obviously, I'm just curious, is there a specific instance where there was some vulnerability detected that required us to be able to invest in this, or is this just yet another annual thing that we're looking to maintain?
This is just an annual thing that we're looking to maintain.
Great to hear. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all my questions.
I'm good.
Great. Just one thing that I do want to add as well. Last year, the town sort of partnered with ClearGov to come up with a capital improvement plan book. It wasn't fully funded for this year to sort of allocate the funds necessary to do that for this year. I am working with Todd trying to secure grant funding and work with ClearGov because I believe we should be submitting a capital improvement plan book. So I'm working on that, and hopefully we will be able to present something for special town meeting with capital improvement book. So working on that.
Is there a way that we could get from ClearGlove some traffic data to identify if it was actually being utilized by the
Yes.
community? That would be
We can.
really helpful in making the case for further investment.
Yeah,
from my
that-
perspective at least.
I agree. That's something that I spoke with Todd. I wanted to see that because we believe in transparency and putting things on the portal. We didn't have a direct link for it, and that's something that I'm looking for as well to put right on the front page or something like that. So, working on getting the grant funding, but also trying to partner with ClearGov to see if we can bring the cost down, but also get the services that we need for this project to be successful.
Awesome. Thank you.
Because I do believe the lack of the direct link is an inhibitor, right? Because I went looking for that at one point and it wasn't as intuitive as you would think.
If you can't find it right on the front page or something, it's tough to navigate and find it. So that's something I think we have to consider and talk about.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's it for me. I don't know if there's...
Did you want to talk about Article 3?
Article 3 was just a collective bargaining article, just saying that's a little bit different from what the town has done. Whenever we've done collective bargaining agreements, it's all been under Article 2, which is the budget transfers, but in my opinion, it should be under Article 3.
Awesome. I think we're good. Are you good?
Good.
So I would ask the board to motion to execute this.
I move that the board execute the warrant for the special town meeting to be held on November 15th, 2022.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
So the next one is the select board vacancy next steps. Do you want to start us off?
Sure. Previously, the board had discussed what it was considering for its next steps in potentially filling the vacancy. In the board's packet, there's a motion, if the board so determines to hold that special election, is sort of coinciding with the fire station building committee's project. Carol and the team have worked collaboratively to make sure this all is aligned and working well together. So we have a motion there if you desire to do that, but I don't know if you want to discuss it first.
Awesome. So I'm just going to summarize for our listening audience the choices that we had was basically fill it in January or wait until May to replace the vacant seat that was left by Cece, who was here. I think there were pros and cons of both of those choices. It wasn't like one groovy choice and one not so groovy. They both had some pretty strong pros and cons. With doing it in January, you have the cons of a shorter amount of time for any candidates considering running to prepare for an election and running an election over the holidays, and all of that was not so cumbersome. But you have the pro of the fact that we are a 2-member board, which is, fortunately, we're getting along in kumbaya and nobody's been hit by a bus, but it does put the town at a little bit of a compromised situation with having only a 2-member board.
As evidenced last week. I got
As
called away for a
evidenced.
trip out west, and that meant we were unable to execute our meeting and had to reschedule for this week. So, case in point.
Case in point. And then in May, you give people more time to do it, but you run a longer period of time with a 2-person board, which is less than ideal.
Yep.
So I guess, case in point, I guess I'm leaning toward the January. Where are you
Agree.
leaning toward the January? So there we go.
So this motion sort of aligned with the next agenda item. That's why we've put January 28th, because that is aligning with the scheduled debt exclusion ballot vote as well, so.
All right, so I move that the Town of Norfolk Select Board hold a special election on January 28th, 2023, to fill the vacant seat on the Select Board formerly held by Cece Van Tyne, term expiring 2025.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I just, for everybody who's listening, want you to consider running and considering participating in town government. It is, you learn a ton, and it's super interesting to see how your town works, and the more the merrier.
Just as illustrious as we make it look on TV.
I
right?
know, so fun. It's scintillating every single time we meet. So please consider, and if you have questions, you can reach out to Kevin or I, and we can give you all the gory details. So thank you. All right, number 5, please discuss and vote on the fire station timeline. It looks like we have some friends here to come and talk to us. Hello.
It's okay,
Absolutely.
right?
We're happy to have you here.
All right, thanks for having us back. As you remember, I think last time we were here, we presented kind of at a high level our proposed schedule for executing both the bid of the fire station, the new fire station, as well as getting a special town meeting and then a debt exclusion vote. So since we met, Steve from Vertex, the OPM, has worked with Carol Green to lay out kind of a strategy of when the vote should be taken, when the special town meeting would happen, when the vote could be taken, when the ballots would be printed. So I'll let him kind of walk through it a little bit. It's not too different from what we presented last time, but we're hoping that we can have whatever discussion you want and hopefully get approval to move forward with this, because the design team is rapidly completing their construction documents in the hopes that we're going to bid this in November.
And just a note, Ron Lamar from Durham Whittier is on Zoom.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Steve Kirby with the Vertex Companies. I'm the OPM on the project. Just to sort of recap a little bit, last time that we came in front of you was on the 14th of September and sort of went over the timeline for bidding as it's coordinated with the special town meeting and election dates. After that meeting, we confirmed with Carol Green and Town Council a couple of the questions that were brought up as far as the timeframe to hold a bid, and also, and more importantly, the timeframes for putting together the early voting, the notices, the restrictions that are part of setting up the both the town meeting and the election/ballot vote. And again, making sure that dovetails into what we have to have for our bid dates, because right now we are planning on going out to bid, as Kevin said, in mid-November, so that we would actually have our general contractors bid on December 22nd. and then we can go from there. We are finalizing the contractor pre-qualifications this week. Again, this is a project that has a construction estimate of over $10 million, so Mass General Law requires pre-qualification of your file subbidders and your general contractors. So we are actually meeting on that tomorrow to essentially finalize those, send those notices out for the mid-November bidding. So, long story short, we are requesting, it looks like about 4 motions to have, number one, the special town meeting on January 11th, the election on the 28th, and then the early voting from January 14th through the 23rd. And I did see that the language for the ballot is also on your docket for a motion. Any questions?
None for mine, no.
I don't have any questions either.
Okay, great.
I was trying to think of a question, but I don't have a question.
I will say I'm happy that it looks like there will be early voting. I know one of the concerns that was raised with having the vote in January was that if you had a terrible weather day, that might damper turnout. So hopefully giving a week plus of people to come pick what day that they want to come and vote works better for them.
We can look at the Weather Channel. Carol takes good care of us. Excellent. I don't have any.
All right, so our first motion is for the special town meeting. I move that the Town of Norfolk Select Board call a special town meeting on January 11th, 2023 at 7 p.m. at the King Philip Regional Middle School, 18 King Street, Norfolk, Massachusetts.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye. Next, I further move that the Town of Norfolk Select Board place a debt exclusion question on the ballot of said special election concerning the new Norfolk Fire Station.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And finally, I further move that the ballot question concerning the debt exclusion be written as follows. Shall the Town of Norfolk be allowed to exempt from the provisions of the Proposition 2 1/2, so-called the amounts required to pay for the bonds issued in order to pay for costs of demolishing, reconstructing, originally equipping, and furnishing the Norfolk Fire Station located at 117 Main Street, and all costs incidental or related thereto.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye. We were playing chicken for a second to see who was going to do
Just
it
a little
first.
bit of drama. We got to add some. We didn't have any questions, so we had to have some drama. All those in favor say aye, so the ayes have it.
Great. So the next item on the board's agenda is to discuss and possibly vote on allowing early in-person voting. As part of the Votes Act of 2022, they made early voting optional, and the Select Board needs to vote on that. Carol was proactive and forward-thinking. You also have to have a recommendation by the registrars, and we have that in your packet. You have the recommendation of 2 registrars. In your packet as well, you have the proposed dates of early in-person voting if the board so chooses to offer that. Carol has mentioned, this is her initial proposal, but if the board is interested in expanding hours, you could do that as well. But this is what was initially proposed.
Awesome.
And thank you to Carol and everyone who helped coordinate this.
Absolutely. The hours look pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, you have a couple of nights that you're there late until 8. You have a couple of early mornings before work and a couple of weekend hours. So I think you covered all bases. Thank you.
I think so too. Thank you very much. I'm all good.
All right. I move that the Town of Norfolk Select Board allow early in-person voting for the special election scheduled on January 28th, 2023, with such early in-person voting to occur from January 14th, 2023 through January 23rd, 2023. I further move that the hours of such early in-person voting be as follows. Can I just say as printed as the agenda, or do I really have to read all of them?
I'll read it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll remember this. 114 Saturday from 9 to 5, 116 Monday from 8 to 8, 117 Tuesday from 8 to 6, 118 Wednesday from 8 to 8, 119 Thursday from 8 to 6, 120 Friday from 9 to 5, 121 Saturday from 9 to 5, and 123 Monday 8 to 8.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
We need a third member on this board just so I can stop doing all of the motions.
Okay. The next agenda on the board's meeting is please discuss and possibly vote on a hearing for a Keno monitor at Ann's Market. Ann's Market currently has a Keno to go operation. They were offered the opportunity.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
They were offered a Keno monitor by the Massachusetts State Lottery. The board doesn't need to do anything if it is in approval of allowing Ann's Market to get a Keno monitor. We did notice Ann's Market, give them the opportunity to come here before the board. In your packet, they provide a response saying, of course, they're in favor of this, and they're hoping it'll bring more business to Ann's Market. So essentially, if the board is in approval of allowing this Keno monitor to be in place, the board doesn't have to do anything. If the board is interested in having a hearing with the Massachusetts Lottery, then you would need to take a motion if you object to offering the Keno monitor to Ann's Market.
Excellent. And is there any kind of feedback or impact in terms of community safety? Like, a Keno doesn't have really any impact on the town.
No, well, some communities do think that having a Keno monitor brings more people to a location. Maybe they're milling about. While you have a Keno to go monitor, you're not going to stay in that. If you just do Keno to go and you don't have a monitor, you'll get your slip and you'll just leave and go somewhere else where there's a monitor. So that might be a concern for some communities. There are many communities that do not object. There are some that do object. That's really the background I can give you.
Thank you. And so we don't have feedback from our police?
We had no concern from the police.
No concern from the police. I do not have any other questions.
How many Keno licenses does Norfolk currently have?
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm guessing
Keno
two.
Well,
monitors?
Keno license is different.
Yeah, it's different. Are you asking Keno monitors or Keno to go?
Keno monitors.
Okay.
Because I think there's two.
I don't think that, from when I looked at this briefly, I didn't think there was many Keno monitors. I don't know the figure off the top of my head, though.
Yeah, I mean, the only question from my perspective, I mean, knowing how Keno monitors typically operate, they require somebody to hang out for a little while, right?
Right.
And I guess it's more an operational question, but is the intent that they want people to hang out inside of there? Is there going to be like a table or something like
Yes.
that? But overall, that's really just curiosity more than anything else. It doesn't impact my decision to move forward with this, and I don't have an objection from my perspective.
I don't either. A little bit of milling isn't too bad.
Okay. I'll get that information for you, and I'll give it to you. Thank you.
But just to be sure, it's definitely not the first one, right?
No.
Okay. That was my biggest concern there. Okay.
Good point.
So there's no motion.
There's no motion.
So
There's no
we
motion.
move along.
We are motionless.
Okay.
Ready?
Go for it.
See it? I'm motionless.
Oh, you did it.
Get it?
Now I
You-
got it. It took me a little bit. I got there.
Oh my gosh, I'm tired. Okay, the garden club.
So agenda item 8, I believe this has happened several times. This is the Garden Club of Norfolk Annual Plant and Bake Sale, Saturday, May 20th, 2023. In the board's packet, you'll have information from Chief Hines and Chief Kenny. There are no concerns, should have minimal impact. We've improved all the signage required. There's no concerns about this event occurring.
Awesome. I love our garden club, and they take good care of us, and I'm pleased to support that. Any questions or comments?
None whatsoever.
Go ahead.
I move that the board vote to approve the use of Town Hill for the Garden Club of Norfolk's annual plant and bake sale on Saturday, May 20th, 2023, from 9 a.m. to 12 noon with a rain date of May 21st, 2023.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Great. So now just some quick town administrator updates. Largely just notifications. First there are housing applications open for the Old Colony Habitat for Humanity program. Essentially provides opportunities for families to get affordable housing and purchasing through the Habitat for Humanity. I spoke with Susan Jacobson, who might be willing to promote this on our website potentially if we get some information. But essentially, this application is open until November 8th, allowing families to apply to get housing, affordable housing, home ownership opportunities. So I think that's a great opportunity for residents within the town of Norfolk.
Excellent.
I'd like to quickly update the board about the MEC union contract. Our sort of MEC dispatchers have been working without a contract since July 1st, 2021. It was an initial contract, and the MEC board has sort of been negotiating with the union. There have been the particular issues have been the shift schedule, also the cost of living increases. I'm happy to say that it seems like we have an agreement with the dispatchers. It's an extremely tough field to recruit and retain talent in, so we feel really great that we were able to reach an agreement. I just want to give a quick update on some of the parameters of that agreement. The cost of living would be about 1%, 2%, and 2.5%, which for the market is it's pretty good COLA increase. However, I think all members of the board, when we discussed this, said, hey, let's look at making sure we're providing bonuses or stipends to recruit talent and retain them, because there has been a lot of turnover in our dispatchers at the MEC. We were able to come up with a schedule, a rotating schedule that gives about a 4-2. It doesn't require any new hires. It actually provides a substantial saving on the projected budget that they had done. Once again, all board members, when we had discussed this, talked about investing in our dispatchers and making sure that we're trying to get as many people to come on board, because there has been a lot of turnover. So I anticipate that all board members will sign that union agreement and memorandum of agreement, and so I just want to give that notification to the board about that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Finally, I just want to update the board on the housing production plan. About last week, I believe, we got approval from DHCD. I just want to commend Susan and Richard for all the hard work that they did in terms of getting this production plan in good shape. I'm pleased with the work that everyone that was involved with it. So want to let the board know is approved. Some next steps for that will be to sort of evaluate the housing choice language in there. Richard has been working with MMPC. I know Susan will be working together with him to take a look at that and see how that housing choice legislation impacts the town. We are essentially, there's two things here, and Susan, I don't know if you want to add, but year one would be about 16 units if we need to get certification for safe harbor, and in 2 years it'd be 32 if we need to get safe harbor.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So I just want to let the board know that.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
Great work, Sue. Thank you.
Yeah. And that's it for TA updates for me.
Because I have to ask a question, right? Now that we have the housing production plan behind us, what is our next steps in terms of addressing the master plan update? Because I believe that was intended to segue into the next process.
So the town received an earmark of about, I believe, $40,000 for the master plan. So Richard is working with our consultant to sort of develop that. Actually, it's sort of aligns because I applied for the town for a community compact grant, and essentially they said, well, you need to expend this money by February 2023. So Rich is working with our strategic plan, with our group there, with our consultant to move forward on that. The town also allocated $50,000 in the previous budget to go for that. So we're working on it. I think Rich has got to work with our consultant to see what the next steps are, and we got to expend that money, the $40,000 that the town received.
Gotcha. Great. Thank you.
That's all I got. Good questions.
Thank you. Warrants?
Yes.
I move that the board approve 7 warrants for the period of October 4th, 2022 through October 21st, 2022, as printed on the agenda for this meeting.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
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 And
Minutes.
I move that the board approve the regular meeting minutes of September 14th, 2022 and October 4th, 2022.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And finally,
I move to adjourn this meeting of the Norfolk Select Board.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Amanda.